administrative controls in other countries. So Hong Kong and Indonesia, they had common areas in the school which remained closed, although they reopened the schools, but not all areas of the schools. And then Indonesia, they required bringing of their own baon while the canteens are closed. Hong Kong has half days, so they don't have common lunch hours. Italy suspended actually extracurricular classes or activities. So those are forms of administrative controls. How did they prevent people from mixing? So yeah, so they had different timing and spatial pathways for different classes. Then you minimize the mixing of classes. Then you can use staggered dismissals and have multiple entrances if needed. So yeah, so that the design of the administrative controls, it really depends on what will work for your setting. There's no one way of doing it. I'm just showing examples. Also, it also depends on what the local epidemiology is like. If you're alert level 1, or are the cases increasing, then maybe you have to be stricter with the admin controls. So in short, your controls be responsive, right? Preventive and responsive to your local situation. How did schools prevent crowding? Hong Kong, China, Japan, they reopened secondary schools, primary schools separately with different schedules, like on different days. I mean, they staggered the opening, not starting everyone at the same on the same day. And then yeah, there's also splitting students into morning and afternoon classes. About us, what did we do? So we had several department orders for that. That's DO number 14, 2020, DepEd order 28, 2018, which is applicable. Okay, the management and institutional arrangements are applicable. And then yes, and then the modification of the curriculum, learning delivery, learning resources, learning assessment, and program management. So now we go to PPE, personal protective equipment, which are face masks, face shields, gowns, gloves, hair covers, shoe covers. You don't need to use all of that, really. The most important is face mask. The only time that you have to use all of that, there are situations in different situations depending on the risk. When you need to use further PPE, but for a school setting, for the children, face masks, that should suffice. Okay, so these are protective on the individual level rather than on a population level. That's why it's at the bottom. So for example, even if you had all of this on PPE, but your room is poorly ventilated or there is crowding, transmission can still occur. We know that by now, that transmission can occur even if we all wear masks, because it really depends also on the ventilation and the physical distancing. So the best way really to do this is to have a combination of the hierarchy of controls. Again, it should be implementable and practical for your school setting. So, and when you decide on these things, it should be in discussion also with your local barangay health units, your school clinic. Yeah, it should be in collaboration. Okay, so always be guided by, said earlier, macro policies, which is the OH, DepEd, national government, MESO, which is really your municipalities, your LGU, and the local DepEd, or regional DepEd. Yeah. Okay, in other schools, when they reopened their schools, they also still required the students to wear face masks, like Italy, Hong Kong, Indonesia, South Korea, and China. Okay, we're still in biology. So let's talk about COVID-19 in children in the Philippines. I'm part of this project, the Salvacion Registry, which is the Pediatric COVID-19 Registry of the Philippines. And it was through this registry that we were able to make the case for pediatric vaccination, especially those with comorbidities. Okay, so we saw in practice that children and adolescents, yes, they can get COVID-19, not the adults, and they can also become severe, critical, and they can die, especially those with comorbidities. And what we mean by comorbidities, like they have other illnesses, long-standing illnesses, like cancer, kidney disease, heart disease, so there are children, although not very common, but there are children with these needs, okay, health needs. There are also co-infections that can happen, like there's COVID-19 and dengue together, COVID-19 and tuberculosis. We've seen it in the Philippines. So our local data shows that the top 3 symptoms or signs and symptoms for pediatric COVID were the following, which is fever, cough, and colds. But they can also present in many other ways, like decreased appetite, difficulty of breathing, vomiting, watery stools, abdominal pain, seizures, sore throat, muscle pain, loss of smell, loss of taste, headache, and rash. Although those are really much less common. There. And our regular case bulletins, we also give, well, just laboratory results and management. But if you want to be updated, you can always follow 101 Health Research and PIDSP on Facebook. When in doubt, please always consult your school clinic and your local BHERTs. Okay, so first we talked about the hierarchy of controls. Next, second is vaccination as a strategy for school reopening, and we've had several policies already for pediatric vaccination, starting with the older ones, then now as young as 5 years old. Okay, now we know that everybody really as a whole, we benefit from vaccination through population protection or herd immunity, direct and indirect protection. And everybody, each of us also benefits from vaccination, because vaccination trains your own immune system how to react in case infection occurs, and it decreases your risk of a severe infection. So that said, vaccination is a strategy for school reopening worldwide. So, well, China, South Korea, China even vaccinated families. South Korea and Indonesia vaccinates teachers. Philippines, we had DM71, wherein we conducted accelerated vaccination of teachers and school personnel to prepare for face-to-face resumption. Yes, so the teachers and the students, and that's why we have pediatric vaccination. And in fact, worldwide, there are a lot of clinical trials for vaccines for even younger children for COVID-19, even below 5 years old.